Hey folks, this is Vince the Evil DM. I'm back with another just a random episode here. I shouldn't say back with another episode, just random episode here because I'm trying out a new microphone setup here on the rig here. New microphone, if tap, you can hear it there. But anyway, I want to talk about my top four go-to RPGs out there. Excuse me. And the RPGs that whenever I want to go play a game, these are the ones that I would usually have with me or run to want to play with people. No real particular order here. It just really depends on what people want to play, how much crunch they want, and what type of sci-fi versus fantasy. So here are my top four. I didn't have really five, but I guess I could probably make five if I really wanted to. But I'm looking at four here. So I'm looking at Rifts. Rifts Ultimate Edition. I was originally a Rifts OG fan, original gangster fan, and I liked it. I do like the original rules of Palladium Universe and how that's all set up. And but I learned with Rifts, you kind of it's all over the place and needs to be updated. And the Ultimate Edition is a lot easier to search things, find things, and play things. So I kind of went with the Ultimate Edition over the original. But though I usually hand out the original books, and I'll use this myself, there's not much of a difference when it comes to Ultimate versus original. So it's just some slight differences between numbers and the way things are set up. Easy to use either or book. You don't have to worry about it. But if I want something gonzo, scientific world, computers, guns, and stuff like that, with crazy things happening, I'm going to go with Rifts. For my next thing that I usually go for is going to be Shadowrun. Now this is a first edition Shadowrun book, as you can see. I had it printed off of drive-through because I wanted an extra copy. My original copy was falling apart. It actually looks pretty good for a drive-through book. Other than the color pages that were in the original book, that's what it's really missing. But it's a good solid read copy, play copy, things like that. So, but Shadowrun is another world if I want that whole cyberpunk and mysterious world of the dark future, what can happen type thing. I'll run Shadowrun. I was more of a second edition fan than anything else. Dabbled in a little bit of 3E and also went back to 1E because I found 1E to be a little bit more my play style. It really depends. I mean, I don't want to argue over editions or have edition wars here or anything, but first edition is probably where I like to be. It's a thinner book. I like the supplements for it. It's easier to play, and I enjoy it. So we all play what we want. Now, for fantasy, it's kind of a hard toss-up for me. I was probably all my life Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition and maybe a BX box set or something. But generally, my baby was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, the original, not the orange spine, the original, and I did a podcast for Roll for Initiative for 10 years for this. I really loved it, but I was burnt out on this. I just got burnt out on this. And there was another game that was fantasy and was very similar to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, modeled right after it. And probably, I'm playing it right now. It's probably more enjoyable in the first edition right now for me. And it was Palladium Fantasy, the original. Or just Palladium Role-Playing Game, the original edition. This was based off of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it was Kevin Sambedia's house rule edition of it. I like it because it has weird and wacky things that were added to basically what 1E would be. A little more rules added to it, a little bit more, I guess, mystery and darkness to it, and it's hard to really explain. You have to pick this up and try it yourself. I would highly recommend grabbing it. It really will remind you of AD&D. If you're used to playing AD&D, you'll be used to this. Same type of chart format and how things progress. Basically, we used to call it AD&D on crack. And finally, if I want to do that cinematic universe of sci-fi and stuff like that, I'm going with Star Wars. And I used to be a 1E cinematic player, but I found that with adding things to it over time and adding more rules, and too many things were left up into the I started gravitating more towards this again. I didn't like this at first at all. I actually hated second edition and revised and updated and revised and expanded, whichever it's called. I'm sorry, I don't like that edition that on just too many rules. I just noticed with 1E there was too little rules, and while sometimes a little bit of amount of rules is better, I prefer just a tad bit more. And this is where this scratched the itch, is the second edition Blue Vader book. I've read this so many times, it's kind of falling apart in some places. I'm rereading it again because maybe my group might be doing something. I don't know. Sometimes I suggest things and they're like, oh yeah, great. And then 3 weeks later, they're like, no, I don't want to bother with that. So, no, but if you do play 1E and you add, I think it was the companion for it, you basically are going to be playing this for the most part. And like any other game, if you don't like a rule in the game, you just exclude it. Talk to your group. Just be like, yeah, I don't think we should play with that. And if they're like, yeah, it's cool, no problem, guys, we're not going to play with it, then we won't play with it. That's really how it works with gaming with me. Books are guidelines. They're not the be-all, end-all. And I'm upfront about that right away with everybody. Mostly everybody in our group is familiar with that. Even the other GM in our group, Corey, he's the same way. He's just like, he cares more about the fun and the story of the group than worrying about what's on page 138. That happens to be the Force. I don't know, I just happened to open that book. You can already hear the binding's really cracking on this. You can hear a crack noise on it. But those are my top 4 RPGs if I really want to play something. Maybe another one would probably be Marvel Superheroes Phase Rip. Though I find that system a little bit easy. It's easy to pick up for new players. I do have fun doing the podcast for it. Speaking of which, there'll be a podcast live this week again on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then finally, maybe DC Heroes, as if I really want Superhero Crunch. Those are my top 4, plus a couple bonuses added into there. So tell me what your top go-to. It could be top 3, top 1, top 2, top 10. Tell me in the comments below what your top ones are. Don't forget to like this video, share the video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you want to support me, you can give thanks, do a super chat, whatever those things are called here on YouTube. Just a way to, support the channel. If subscribing is all you've done, that's beautiful. Hitting like is also great as well. Just want to say keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, everybody.